Hi, good afternoon. Um, thank you so much for joining our episode this afternoon of EQ Lunch and Learn. And today we are talking about mindfulness. Our topic today is mindfulness and how you can show up at workplace and in our daily lives. So today, unfortunately, our host Mucha will not be able to join us, but she will be moderating our session today behind the scenes. But please feel free to interact with us in our chat session, and please feel free to ask all the questions that you might have for us. So, when we talk about mindfulness, what do we actually mean by mindfulness? So mindfulness means the psychological state. I'm sorry, my screen seems to be freezing. Apologies for that. Allow me to start again. So mindfulness means the psychological state of awareness, practices that promote this awareness, and a mode of processing information and character traits. According to Thich, thinking in terms of either pessimism or optimism oversimplified the truth. The problem is to see reality as it is. Being mindfulness in our life and work will help in reducing rumination and stress, which in turn amplifies success in work and a positive attitude towards life. Millennials also become less emotional and look for better ways to react into situations, both positively and negatively. Today, we are exploring how organizations can ensure their employees are consciously present in the workplace. And we are also exploring how millennials can, in turn, make stress their friend more for more success in their work and personal lives. As always, I have three amazing guests here with me today, and they are going to come in and share in their thoughts. And please allow me to introduce them to you. Our first guest today is Silhe. Silhe is a Johannesburg-based communication practitioner with extensive experience in PR, media, and content marketing. Before returning to South Africa in 2020, he spent 4 years living and working in the Southeast Asia for startups. He has a keen interest in the intersection between technology and society and the positive and negative implications thereof, as well as in creating safe workspaces amid the COVID-19 pandemic. So allow me to bring Silhe on screen.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Silhe, and welcome, and please say hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, to connect with Silhe, you can follow him on LinkedIn. We are going to share his LinkedIn link below our chat. And please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Moving forward, our next panelist is Elizabeth Kitao. Elizabeth is a HR practitioner with over 10 years of experience. She has served in various capacities that enormously contributed to an aspiring progressive career. Elizabeth is very passionate about learning and development and committed to using her extensive experience, skills, and knowledge to make the most out of people's talents and help them develop to their full potential. The program she runs in her current workspace, graduate trainees, technical development, and mentorship program. So let me bring up Elizabeth on screen so that you can say hi. Welcome, Elizabeth. We are also...
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Sorry. We are happy to have you, Elizabeth. I'm going to share Elizabeth LinkedIn so that you can get to interact with her and follow her more. Our third panelist this afternoon is Elizabeth again, Eric Mokaya. Eric has a deep passion for financial markets and has persuaded via multiple avenues. Eric works as the lead author of the transcripts and a niche weekly capital markets newsletter. He is the founder of Mwango Capital, and personally, he invests on a small scale in the US and Nordic equities, and occasionally gives advice to startups in Kenya. Eric loves people and is great in business, and also does research at Scholars. So let me add Eric on the screen. Welcome, Mokaya.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So I'm going to share Eric's LinkedIn profile link so that you can follow him and interact more with him. Kicking into our conversation. In your own words, how would you describe the term mindfulness? Still here, I'll go to you if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much again for having me here today. I'd really say, for me personally, mindfulness is being intentional about being present in your day-to-day life for yourself, more importantly, and others.
Wow, that is clearly well put and very short and profound. Thank you, Silhe. Elizabeth, in your own terms, how would you explain mindfulness?
Thank you so much. In my own words, mindfulness is simply taking your time. When I add to what Sheila has said, paying attention and being there and being present in the moment, I'd say you have to also do it in a very focused and relaxed way. So that's how I would define mindfulness. Over to you,
Wow,
Anne.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. How about you, Mokaya? Mindfulness.
I think it's hard to add. I think it's just as both have said, it's really hard to come last. I think they've covered it pretty well. It's just it's the aspect of being present in the moment and enjoying that moment. I think, and also being aware that you actually are in the present, not the past, not the future, just the present.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Elizabeth, let me come to you. With the kind of background that you have with organizations, so how can organizations ensure they put enough plans in place to ensure positive thinking among their employees in the workspace?
Wow, what a what a question. First of all, I'd like to appreciate organizations that have put in a lot of work in acknowledging and being very intentional about mindfulness. I'd also like to be cognizant that there are organizations that are practicing it, but they're not very aware of what they're doing. I would say it's not a new theory. It's something that happens within us, and it's knowledge that we all have. But most of the times, as one of my colleagues has said, we're not intentional about it. So we are subconsciously or unconsciously doing that. So, what can organizations do in terms of ensuring that employees or workers are present within the space? One of the things that I have seen or I've witnessed is a lot of creating an environment that gives the ambience of the workspace, because that is one acknowledgement of where you are, meaning that they create it in a way that when you come in, you of course know that you're not at home, you're at work. So it automatically switches you and you pay attention at, oh, I'm at work, right from the entrance to where your sitting space is. So when you look at even the furniture they provide within, we don't sit on sofas, we sit on ergonomically presented chairs or advised chairs that we use. So those small things that organizations do enhance and bring that awareness that, oh, I'm at work. And that is what creates the difference between you being at work and you being at home. And I'd like to put a reminder, like when COVID came in and we were forced to work at home, we really struggled to try and create a space that is similar to a workplace. So that is one of the mindful techniques that workplaces use to ensure that they are keeping their workers alive and in touch with the reality around them. Another thing that when I look back and I try to relate mindfulness and the environment at work in workplaces would be the signages that are used. It like for me, who comes from a manufacturing setup, there's a lot of signage that we have. So in every space that you get in, what draws your attention is what you see, because it now makes you stop what you're doing and reframe yourself and know, oh, I'm in a noisy place right now and I need to do this so that I'm able to be in the present. Yeah. I think I'll pass that over to Eric, so Mokaya,
Wow.
to help me with that again. Yeah.
In terms of workplace mindfulness, I think what I've seen in a couple of the places that I've seen, it's creating an environment where people can actually express the challenges that they are going through the workplace. So I think also like I've worked in a fintech. Maybe they have a little bit more money. They used to have like this small room where you can actually just go and relax and chill there. Like if you're stressed with work, you can just go there. It's actually and I think someone told me that it's actually a requirement in Sweden that every workplace has to have like a room where people can actually just go and rest a bit. So it may not be that you have to do to create a mindful environment, but at least like just be aware that people are stressed by work, not just work, but also family. They're bringing in a lot of other things that have gone through. Someone maybe has a baby, didn't sleep well, so when they come to work, they'll definitely be stressed throughout the day. So I think like, and I guess that's why like a lot of people don't stay maybe in companies like the big four. A lot of times you work really hard for 2 years and you want a break from that. But I think at the end of the day, if you're not a big four firm, you need to create an environment where people can thrive. At the same time, just if they're stressed, they can take a little bit of time off and still not take advantage of it. So that also requires a bit of a culture of honesty. Sometimes also avail a psychologist for them, just to have a chat once in a while. If you can, it's not that expensive as many people think. Just let people vent somewhere, and with a psychologist, be able to share something like that. If they avoid creating toxic cultures where people feel embarrassed to also share like what their challenges are. If someone failed in an assignment at work, don't public shame people. So like I think this small things that I guess like especially as maybe we usually say like maybe I think mostly people look down upon the aspect of going maybe to a psychologist in an African context, but I think like it's time to embrace the fact that mental health challenges are actually real, and it's important to give support to our co-workers. So they can be, if you want them to be thriving and working optimally, I think it's good to provide an environment where they can. So small things, just have a chat with them. I know our culture is mostly a culture of where the boss and the employee are like worlds apart in terms of even discussing or talking, or where the employee feels like they're only at work during work hours and then after that they're gone. So I think they can't put in their coat and then leave or something like that, like in the old days with the government offices. But I think like the future, what I'm seeing in terms of creating future organizations, like futuristic organizations that want to impact the future, especially with Gen Zs and Millennials, you really need to show a bit of care. So I think a lot of studies that I've seen around, they show that people want to work in organizations where they feel valued, where they feel they're contributing, they're worth something, and that their contribution is actually being seen at the end of the day. So if you want them to be working with you, you really need to go out of your way to make them comfortable and at the same time challenging. So it's at the same time you have to give them a bit of push but at the same time make the place a good place to be at. And I think the world-beating organizations like Google and Microsoft, they do that really, really, really well. So a bit of we give you a big challenge, a big task, but when you accomplish it, we celebrate you, and we come and listen to the mistakes you made along the way, and you see how we can make it better for next time. So I think those are like my 2 cents in terms of how organizations can work with people, and especially during this pandemic period, people have been a bit more stressed than usual. People are a bit more like the pandemic just created this environment where people are very, very stressed, and people are not themselves as much as they used to. So I think it's important to just pay attention to the fact that they need help, and they need your support as an employer, as a fellow employee. So go out of your way to check on your colleagues. Even if you're an introvert, it's possible to still text and check out on how your colleagues are doing and stuff like that. So I think that those are some of the aspects in which you can create a bit of a mindful environment where people are present, working, and working optimally.
Wow, wow. I love it. I love it. And what I'm hearing you, Eric Mokaya, saying that the how you show up at the workplace, how the small things that you put in place are actually goes a long way for your members, for your teammates to actually show up and be more productive. And as you mentioned, that the old ways are no longer working, so we have to shift. And I mean, COVID has shown us so many things that we were doing wrong during our on the old days are not really the same, cannot really be the same. So wow, I'm loving the conversation. And allow me to shout out to our regulars. Please feel free, welcome, add in your comments, feeling put on the questions that you have, and our panel will come to the Q&A session as we progress to the with this topic of ours. So let me come to you, Sihle, because you have been kind of quiet. So is meditation one way organizations can use to ensure team building and positive living among their employees?
Thank you. So, is meditation one way? Absolutely. I think for a lot of people that are stepping into mindfulness, meditation is that jump off platform. So I find that if organization can incorporate um, activities such as meditation, it would really enhance um, the organization's presentness, and as well as collaboration in the office. When you do meditate, you get into this calm state, and when you can do that and hold space for other people to do the same around you, that's definitely a way that organizations, in fun ways, can sort of incorporate mindfulness into the work culture, beyond all the other things that also Eric might have mentioned, like support, like wellness support and things like that. So yes, absolutely.
Wow, thank you for those insights. And I'm hearing that even we can go as much as having a psychiatrist, bringing in a psychiatrist to just allow your team to vent. I think Mokaya mentioned that, and don't shame your team. Create a very safe environment for your team, because I'm sure people are going through um, issues out here. And when we have an environment that is a bit more sensitive and mindful, we can be able, I think it can really help our teams to be more thriving and more productive. Farahab, I can see you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for tuning. Wakely for Sorrow, thank you for tuning in. Great to join this conversation. Yes, we see you. We see you. Keep commenting. We see you, and we appreciate you creating the time to join this lovely conversation. Elizabeth, So let's get specific. What can organization right now start? I know we've mentioned some of the things that organization can start doing, but what can they do to start now implementing to better support their team's positive form of mindfulness towards work? What we've mentioned some of the things, but how can they start implementing them?
I think, as I first said, we need to be more intentional about what we are doing and not just unconsciously do some of these things. Like we've said, we've talked about the breaks. Can we be more intentional about giving people breaks, providing the space where people can go in and have a peaceful moment, creating the ambience that is going to allow people uh, to have a moment of just meditating, because meditation can come in different ways. It's not only about sitting quietly on the floor on a mat. Somebody can meditate while they're sitting. Can organizations provide working spaces where somebody, when it's too much for them, they can have a walk, take a walk, and come back as they've cleared their heads. So it's more about being intentional about what's in. And we also need to train people. We need to acknowledge this and allow people to understand. Let's have some awareness of this mindfulness. Let's talk about the exercises that people are doing to enhance their mental well-being. Because when you look at these topics, they are all related. When you talk about mindfulness, it's somehow connected to mental well-being. It's also connected to emotional intelligence. So as we have this awareness, where are we connecting all these things? How are we making people realize that this is exactly what they are doing at that specific moment, and it's supposed to be enhancing? Let's shout about the good things that mindfulness brings within the organization, yeah, because we know that when we train people on mindfulness, they pay more attention. When they pay more attention, that means that in an organization where it's full of maybe accidents or something, the distraction level goes down. So once it goes down, that means that we enhance the safety of the people there. So I think being more intentional and creating that awareness of the activities that are meant to enhance the mindfulness can really go a long way within the organizations.
Wow,
Over to you.
wow. Being more intentional, and we shouting when the right things are being done, when they are doing good. I hear you, and thank you so much for sharing those great insights. Silha, I've seen you nodding your head. Do you have anything to add on to whatever Elizabeth was saying?
Yes, I can absolutely echo what they've said. I think it's so important for organizations to really not just say these things like we care about your mental health or whatever, but really, again, I think the word intentionality is going to be a common thread in this discussion, is that being intentional and showing employees that, okay, because we're prioritizing your mental health, or this is the ways that we're doing it. So I agree completely with what she said.
Yeah, thank you so much. And sticking to you, how about on the flip side? What can organizations stop doing better to support their teams from the negative mindset towards work?
Yes, so what can they stop doing?
Stop. Yes.
Okay. So I'd have to really say, I think a lot of organizations now in a lot of countries have transitioned back to work full time, or sort of in between home and work. And as a result, we find because of this, your bosses or your management might in a way overstep your boundaries, where you're getting calls way beyond the time in the evening, and you're having to be present for those kind of things. And in a way, by overstepping your boundaries, they are taking away those opportunities for you to be more mindful and present post work. So, one thing for me is definitely having better care in terms of boundaries between employees and management. Another, again, just to go back to that point, stop the lip service that we often pay to caring about staff's mental health. Let's show them how to do it. Like we had said earlier, let's create those 5 minutes of mindfulness. Let's um, allow people to maybe take a walk to clear their head. And again, um, it's interesting to see how people, organizations at least, post after the pandemic, I mean, we're still in it, that caused us to stop, right, and sort of reevaluate the often, I'm going to say, messed up ways that we've been functioning as organizations in work culture. And as a result, we've learned that flexibility is so important, and it actually contributes to better work-life balance. So, for example, so organizations can adopt more flexibility and stop being rigid in their work culture. And this will really foster a culture amongst their employees of presentness, enthusiasm, and as well as an eagerness to sort of thrive and succeed within your role. So those are my
Wow.
top three.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, we should stop overstepping boundaries, and then we should stop lip service. Like for example, I know this month it's the breast cancer awareness month. What are we doing for our employees? Are we? There are so many services out there outside right now. There are so many campaigns there. Are we involving our team members? Are we actually inviting practitioners to actually like talk to us about these things that prevention measures that we can take? So yeah, I hear you. We should stop the lip service and actually do um, do the services to our team members. Allow me to read this comment from Farahab Wangoi. Thank you for sharing your comment. It's so important to create room for people to take breaks and even leave work on time to go home and rest. When I started working, I thought it was okay to leave work at 9 p.m. and still carry my laptop for a 10 p.m. meeting. When I nearly had a mental breakdown, wow, I realized it was not healthy. Team leaders can lead from the front and help their team balance work life. Wow, that is profound. Elizabeth, do you have anything to add onto that comment
Yeah,
from
I think
Farahab?
what Sheila has said is very important. The boundaries are very, we need to set those boundaries. And, sometimes we feel like we really want to give so much to the employer. But at what time are we stopping to think about ourselves? At what point are we having that break? Now, apart from work, now you come and evaluate yourself as a person, reflect on how the day has been. What time do you set aside for the gratitude? Yeah. So extending to 10 o'clock for a meeting, I think, and I'm glad that you realize that it's not healthy and you have stopped. And yes, of course, that's why we encourage in companies to train their managers so that they can become effective leaders. Because once the managers realize how to be mindful and they become mindful leaders, then the thought about calling somebody after 9 or giving unrealistic targets, uh, being present for the people, and also making sure that you actually lead by example will definitely be there. So thank you, Wangui. That was very profound. And I love the fact that you got the realization. And yeah, thumbs up for coming out of that safe.
Thank you. Yeah, and I recall at PTS we recently transitioned back from working from home. And I can tell you, it's way down on some of us. And I remember my manager asking me, I remember before when we were working from home, you used to go and work out, you used to go to the gym. Now that we are back here, are you now doing that? Are you still doing that? And I was like, no, I've not yet figured it out and created the time to. And she said, no, actually go back, take time off from work. You can leave this time and create time, go back and at work, go to the gym. And because your mental health goes together with your physical health. So I applaud my manager for allowing me to create that time and go back to actually working out, because it's actually working well for me at the moment. So yeah, kudos. You can do that to your team. Encourage your team members to actually go out there and take some time off. Eric, let me come to you. You've been a bit quiet. So would you add anything to the list, either which of what organization can start doing and what they can stop doing? Anything that you can add to the list that Silhe and Elizabeth have mentioned?
I think also maybe something that's not talked about a lot. I think it's also shifting people to positions where they are best suited for. So sometimes someone can actually have studied to be an accountant, but they're not a good accountant. So I think like it's good once in a while to do competence checks and see where someone is best suited and just shift them there, and also like find out where what people really love doing and put them there, because someone can be in marketing and so maybe they're actually best to actually help in finance or maybe investor relations or something like that. So I think moving people around to where their competencies lie helps a lot, so that work feels a bit like play, not entirely like play, but a bit like play. It helps a lot. If you really want a long career life, work needs to feel like play. If it feels like every Monday you wake up and it's like, okay, it's another week, and you're going to spend at least 70% of your life like at work, or at least 50% of your 70% of your waking hours and 50%, let's say, of your lifetime need to be spent on work. So if it's going to be spent on work, just make sure it's meaningful. And if it's meaningful, it's fulfilling, it's something that you look forward to at least. For some people, it takes a short time for them to find out what they're really passionate at. For some other people, it takes them time. But I don't mean like you should immediately like quit the job you're working without knowing where the bills are being paid from and then switch to something else. But I mean, help your employees find what they're really good at. And for some people, and this is also something I've learned in all honesty, sometimes some people's skills are not, or skill set are not best utilized within the current organization. And it's okay to discuss with someone to exit the company. So it's okay to have those conversations. I think we shy away from this, but that's the reality. That sometimes maybe we started off like tulianza vizuri, but now it's a bit tough, and then we need to shift to something else. So it's okay. If you find something else, I am of the opinion that if you have good workers and they're working with you and you're supportive of them, when they find something else, it's okay that they can leave and in the meantime make sure you've trained someone else to take over their role or something like that. So I think that helps us. So having these honest conversations, I remember like at Klarna we used to do these check-ins every Friday. So just a check-in saying, how was the week, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how heavy was the workload? And this was a really small team where we're doing with a lot of stuff. So if we hear that you have too much work on your hands, we're like, okay, can we shift that to maybe Elizabeth here, who doesn't have a lot of work this week, whose work week looks like it was 0. She was just chilling. So instead of like, I finished my work, now I can just chill for the rest of the week, it should be like, okay, I finished my work, how can I help my colleague to be a bit less stressed so that next time when I have a lot to do, she or he can also help me. So I think that a collaborative atmosphere is very important. And I think I guess this is something we don't do well, sadly, as Kenyans, and I see it a lot with Nigerians. Nigerians do it very well. They're very supportive. Even you see this very well in the startup ecosystem. So the thing is, the way startup ecosystems thrive is that the successful ones come back and they reinvest in like you make a lot of money and then you take that, put it back in the ecosystem by investing in other people's like startups. Like I become successful, take my money and put it in some friends or some potential. And then those ones grow up, they explode. And then when they do that, they take that money and invest in others. That can't happen if you're always competing, always fighting, always looking out to, backstab so that you can get the top job. Sadly, and this is also a reality, not everyone is meant to be a CEO. Not everyone is going to be the boss. Some people, I don't say that some people are meant to be in certain positions, but some people don't have it cut out to be bosses. Like there are only 65 companies at the NSC. You can't all be CEOs. 54 million Kenyans can't be the CEO of Safaricom. There can only be one. And that means below that one, there are also like 10 or 15 people who are serving him and serving the vision he has. So I think it's a painful reality to bear, but not everyone will be CEO. And it's okay. It's not the end of life. It's not the end of life. Perhaps you're CEO of another company, you'll become a CEO of another company, or this one, or something like that. But it's some honest conversations that we need to have with ourselves. And also, like, if I want to be CEO, then what can I do to get there? And how can my employer support me? How can my colleagues support me? If you get to be CEO, these people you've backstabbed are the ones you rely on to execute, because you need people to help you execute. CEOs don't do everything. That's a reality also. They need to delegate. They need a competent team. And that team comes from these colleagues that you've worked with, you have not backstabbed, you have had honest conversations about growth. I think you're failing me in this regard. Could you help me here a bit better? How can I be of help to you? So I think I try to foster that kind of collaborative environment where I do stuff with Mwango Capital. And also, like, sometimes I also see like I see like a colleague is a bit stressed, so maybe an employee is a bit stressed at Mwango, and I'm like, okay, I think you should take the week off to actually just go and relax. Your work will be taken care of by this one and this one, and we can reduce the workload in that week and shift it around, and then just go home and rest. See you next week when you're a bit refreshed. And people come back refreshed with a lot of ideas. It helps us, it helps them, and it boosts the organization. And something that maybe is very key also is also fostering a culture of communication. I think that's one thing that my fellow Kenyans, we struggle with a lot. So communication in the sense of, if I'm off work, I should say I'm actually off work and not have left a coatie on the seat pretending that I'm around, yet I'm not. Like, you want people to know that, okay, I'm available between this time and this time, but this other time I'm actually going to pick my kid from school and I'm taking them, I'm picking them from school. It's okay. It's part of, I don't know why we need to be afraid of, okay, I'm going to pick my kid from school. I'm going off work early to pick my kid from school. It's okay. If you can, maybe in the evening, pull up some hours to cover up for that, that's okay. I think something like that. So that's something I've seen in the Nordics a lot, that they work with you to make you work better. So, like, it's okay to work from home if your kid's a bit sick today. So I think these are some of the things that we're learning in terms of helping people to be more mindful, be passionate about the organization. We don't want people sneaking around. I actually really prefer someone to tell me, like, I'm unavailable tomorrow the whole day. Then I know, like, okay, I will not in my mind be thinking someone is working on this when they are not. So I'd rather that. And then if you say, like, it's a deadline by this date, Kenya wenzangu, let's keep that. Like, a deadline is a deadline, not a promise, or it's not it's a suggestion. It's actually a hard deadline. Let's do it by this date. Let's communicate if we can't. If you see beforehand that we can't deliver by then, talk beforehand. Don't wait until the deadline imepita. just let's talk, let's communicate. In fact, I think a lot of, from what I've studied in a lot of big organizations, preempt the bad news. In fact, I think there are some companies I've seen where the boss wants to know what is the bad news first. Where is the bad news at? And let's communicate that very clearly so that we anticipate problems, help each other, and grow our company so that we can keep getting employed and employing other people at the same time. And yeah, so I think those are, I've rambled on and on, but keys: communicate clearly, uh, allow the employees to actually be in positions where they are best suited for skills, have those conversations about capacity building. What can we do to help you grow to your role? And what can we do to help you be better at your job? If it's mentorship you need, we can get you that. If it's maybe some training, maybe some courses you need to do in accounting to make you a better accountant, we can do that. So like, I think capacity building is also very important within organizations. So I hope I've said something that captures the listener's attention.
So that was profound, Mokaya. And wow, and if organizations can adapt to some of the examples you've shared here, I'm sure, because you've mentioned it's a win-win. When your colleague shows up very positive, very excited about their work, the company, the organization wins because they'll give you out their best performance. They will give out the best ideas, and yeah, everyone will win, and the environment will be very conducive and lovely to work around. Wow, I can see some of the questions coming along. Please keep up the questions coming. We are going to take some of the questions as we progress with the conversation. Allow me to come to you, Silhe. What are some of the ways you think that we can practice daily to ensure that we always remain mindful of everyone and everything in the worst situations?
Thank you. For me personally, and the part of my daily practice is that I start with gratitude, right? Gratitude is such a powerful practice that not only makes you grateful for everything that you have or whatever thing that you can identify at that point in time, but it also focuses you on the present moment. So gratitude is extremely important for me. Again, mindfulness meditation is something that you can add to your mindfulness journey. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions with meditation, where people often say, I can't concentrate during meditation. My mind is wandering. And that's part of the whole thing, is that you need to allow your mind to wander and then work on ways to bringing yourself back to the present moment. So holding space for yourself. Again, meditation doesn't have to be 20 minutes. If you feel like you have capacity for 5 minutes or 1 minute, do that. That's a great place. And your body is a great language tool, and it's always consistently communicating with you. So when you often check in with yourself, you can tell what you need to do next, or where you may be feeling some anxiousness or stress. And that's also such a great a practice to look at how you're feeling, and then that's a great way to bring yourself back into the moment and see you need to move forward from there. So those three for me really are some ways that you can add in your daily practice, ensure that you remain mindful of yourself, number one, but everyone else. And just to close off with that answer is that when you show up for yourself, it allows you to be present for other people in the best way that you can be. So start with yourself, and then the other people, it will just naturally flow, and you'll hold space for them.
Wow. Wow, wow. That is profound. Show up for yourself, check in with yourself, and it will show out to others. It will progress and come out to others. Wow, that is so profound. Thank you for those remarks. Elizabeth, let me pose the same question to you. What are some of the ways you think we can practically do daily to ensure that we are being mindful of everyone and everything?
Well, for me, gratitude, of course, is on top of the list. And what I'd like to add is paying attention. You just need to take time and pay attention to anything that you're doing. When you're eating, take a moment and just taste the food, enjoy it, eat slowly. That's also being mindful because you're paying attention to the smallest things. Remember, mindfulness is through practice, and you can practice with the little things, and they grow in it grows, and you become better. Like even in meditation, you don't have to start with 20 minutes. You can start with 5 minutes, then grow into 10 minutes, and eventually you find yourself you can meditate for 25 minutes with no distraction. Yeah. Another thing is just being consciously aware. So when you're doing something, are you aware of what you're doing? Can you just sit and listen to what is around you? You know, one funny thing is that most of us drive, but we don't pay attention to even the engine sounds. We don't pay attention to what's happening outside. You're just on the wheel and off you go. But a good driver is very mindful. When they start the car, they would listen to everything and they'll tell you, I'm hearing a sound that's not right. And for sure, when they take that car to the mechanic will find something faulty. Those are very mindful people and they're very safe. But for people who are not mindful, even from within their surroundings, you just hop into the car, off you go, and you don't even listen to what is within or without. Most of the accidents on the roads is lack of mindfulness. Yeah, you're just not looking who is next to you. You're not paying attention to the next driver. You're not paying attention to the pedestrian. You're not paying attention to the lights. So part of the practice is being consciously aware, just being able to listen. And it starts with the very small things. The biggest one after gratitude, I'd say, is single taxing. You know, it's a common thing in interviews. People like saying, I'm good at multitasking. And I think that is one thing HR should really cancel because multitasking is a time waster. People think that multitasking shows that you're a hero, you're able to do so much within a short time. But in actual sense and reality is that multitasking is simply coming from one task to another. It's not productive, it's a time waster. So, one of the things that I'd like people to practice is one task at a time, one task at a time. Finish one task, go to the next. And because when you accomplish that, the small wins that you get when you accomplish one task to the other, they actually make you more productive because you appreciate where you're coming from and people can celebrate the small wins. Just like when we were having the conversation about celebrating the wins. So that is only possible if you're single tasking. You finish one task and go to the next, and let's avoid what we're calling multitasking and thinking that it's a good way of doing things. But well, in actual sense, it's a time waste and it's the most unproductive way. And it's one of the things that kills mindfulness because mindfulness is more generated when somebody concentrates on one thing and they finish and they move into the next thing. And you actually find that you move faster. One last thing I'd say is keep a journal. I know it's not a common practice. People don't like noting down. They don't like going through their day. They don't like beginning their day with planning. But when you actually keep a journal, a time journal especially, you can actually reflect and see where do you lose your time most. And when you come back and see where you're losing your time, you'll be able to shape up and be better in time management because you can follow up on how the previous day was. You can actually see how to get better because you have a record that helps you progressively to get better. And with that, you're simply practicing mindfulness. So I think I'll push that over to Mokaya to give us more insights on how to practice this. Thank you.
I think I told Diana who invited me that I'm actually really bad at some of the things that Elizabeth says. I think we should meet up, and then she helps me a bit. I barely keep a journal very well, but I am aware of when the deadlines are, but the thing that helps me the most, at least this one, is the calendar. I have my calendar lays out for the week what exactly is going to be happening. So if someone needs me, just I send them. There's a really nice app, not app really. I call it. It's a feature that you can add to your Calendly, and if people want to meet you, you can easily. I don't know how to share it, but it's called Calendly. Yeah, I think there you go. If you can see the link, so that Calendly helps me a lot to just, if someone, instead of the back and forth, when should you meet? I just send you the Calendly, you pick a time, and then you have a quick meeting during that time. So that helps a lot. But of course, like at the beginning of the week, I have a map of how the week is going to look like in terms of workloads and stuff, so that I'm very aware of that. And I actually did have to get like a friend to help me, plan out the week a bit better so I don't lose. I always tell people, if you want something done, just add it to my calendar. It will be done. Then I'll see like, there's something that needs to be done at this point in time. I used to journal, but I don't know why I've stopped. I should go back to that habit a bit more. But I think some other things that also are underrated. Please have a life outside work. Play sports, go to the gym. They're very, very helpful for your long term. I mean, it's not something we grow up doing a lot in Africa. Just maybe just going. We do this a lot when you're younger, but then when you grow older, I think it's really rare to see like my mom now has a back problem. She needs to be actually going to the gym. She needs to run a bit, but she can't because she's in Kisii, and people around will be like, "Oh, is this weirdo running around and stuff like that?" But I think like we need to make it acceptable that, hey, you can actually be jogging outside. It's okay. You're not like if you're just running around a bit. So just make sure that you have a spot, at least like get somewhere where you can also be exercising. Take a walk. Karura Forest is a bit free, I think. Go take a walk inside. It helps you to at least go away from your mind a bit, to focus on other tasks. And also, like, especially for maybe parents and people like that, also get some me time, like get some alone time. The way I used to do it when I grew up a bit in the slums of Kangemi, so then you don't have a lot of time to yourself. So my secret was sleep early. I sleep around 9, and then I wake up around like 4, and then I have like 2 hours to myself in the morning, no noise, no nothing. So like that's me time. So by the time people wake up at 6 or 7, I've had my me time. I've journaled. I have thought about stuff a bit more. So I think like don't just go through life just waiting for that next promotion or something. So this is more for the employees. Like also like have me time to plan yourself, to say like, okay, I want to save with the circle. I want to invest in stocks. How's my salary versus expenses? Can I cut? I'm a financial analyst, so I can't help but go to this direction. Your health is really well when you're also doing well financially. So that means that plan. Don't live at 100% of your income. Try and live at around like 60 to 70%. If you need to downgrade where you're living, to actually maybe even share rent with someone, if you have a friend that you can maybe stay with together and have a place where you can also save on rent, do that. So save. It's very important to save at the end of life. What you give to NSSF is actually not enough to fund your retirement. It's very, very low. I kind of agree with the president on that. Like you really need to think about your retirement. Sadly, for let's say you enter the workforce at 25, you have until maximum 60 to work. So you have like 35 years to work. And the older you grow, the less strength you have to chase things around. So So like when you're young, you can work hard a lot of hours, but also like make sure you're saving somewhere. Really make sure you're saving. Take that money, 10%, 20% of your income, put it in a circle, let it pay dividends, put it in the stock exchange a bit. If you don't know much, just find a friendly person who can invest you financially to do that. Don't live a flashy lifestyle just to please people. It's very important to be true to who you are. Like if you really are financially challenged, it's okay not to do some stuff, to say to people, okay, I can't be eating every day at Sankara when I need to save. That's a lot of money. I can't do that. I can't be partying every weekend. I need to save money. I need to kind of like absolutely requires your focus. Because also the other thing is that what we've done a lot in Africa for a long time is we depend on our kids to take care of us when they're older. I think that's a mentality that needs to shift that towards like, okay, I need to save for my retirement now. The kids may not always come through. They also have their own lives. They all have their kids to take care of. And I can't guarantee that they'll get enough income to be able to take care of me. So I think being mindful of your financial health, health. Don't Fuliza too much. Fuliza is actually meant for short-term needs. The longer you stay with it, the more punishing it is. Don't take loans from Shylocks. They also for some people it actually extends that the employer comes to be looked for and anakuja kutafutwa because someone took a loan and then they say the employer needs to be paying and stuff like that. So like I think like some of these things, you don't want also the embarrassment of coming to be fished out of the workplace because you've refused to pay. So take care of your financial health. Have a chat with yourself about how you're doing financially. Can I really afford to have that car, or can I keep going with the matatu and save on money or something like that? Yes, it's stressful and all, but maybe I can grab a book and read in the process. I know that it's not always possible, but like find some ways to cope without like straining yourself financially. Don't take loans if for I mean, I'm preaching now. Don't take loans for like non-long-term assets. Don't take loans for a car. Like at least like really like restrain yourself from taking loans for depreciating assets like cars, like furniture and stuff like that. Like for a house, yes, that's a good. For land, yes, like in terms of that. So those are some of the things that may make you well financially in the long term to be able like to you need to create that financial discipline, because that also, if you can't afford to like get the transport you need to take you to the work the next day, that also now boils over to the employer. Like, so try and manage those finances very well. So I think those are some of the things I would say. So save, invest, live within your means. Very important.
Save, invest, live within your means. Wow. Thank you so much for those insights. I can see some of the questions that have come forward. So Farahab has a question. How do you start to have the conversation with your colleagues about mindfulness, especially if you happen to be not high ranking? Elizabeth.
Mindfulness is a habit. That's why we are saying you have to practice it. And we say that it takes 30 days to build a good or a bad habit. So, what exactly is it that you would like these colleagues to be mindful about? What is it that is not working very well within the space? Then now you feel like if we are mindful, or if we practice mindfulness, then it's going to help. So those are some of the questions first I would ask myself before I approach somebody, because we are wired differently and we take in things differently. However, this, as we were talking, we were saying that we lead by example. And sometimes when people, you see, it's monkey see, monkey do. When people see you doing something and it's working very well for you, they want to adopt it. They'll ask you, what are you doing? It's like when ladies see another lady with a very smooth skin, they will ask you, what are you using? What are you doing to make your skin glow like that? So maybe it can start with you. And when it starts with you, when people see the results, because definitely mindfulness will give you productivity at work. You are emotionally stable because you're more aware of what is within you. You have a lot of control of the things that are of your concern, and you learn how to separate issues. So there's a lot of emotional intelligence with mindfulness practice. And people who are emotionally intelligent, they are able to separate issues and work very well with people. So as you start relating with people very well in the organization, they might see that and want to adapt that. Because sometimes there are concepts that you cannot push through people. They have to see the results for them to be attracted to them. However, in an organization, it's something that you can discuss with the manager very freely and tell them and give a suggestion, yeah. Especially if it's an organization that allows people to speak up and give suggestions, you could give a suggestion that, do you think this might be helpful in terms of building the team capacity? Because we know very well that mindfulness also contributes very well in terms of teamwork, because everybody now is attentive, everybody is uh, balancing emotionally, mentally, and physically. So there's a way that there's some synergy that is going to be felt that is going to propel the team to work very well. So you could also try, don't shy off. Sometimes we think like, oh, they're too high there, we cannot speak to them. And sometimes when they are up there, they're actually waiting for you to come up with ideas and give them so that they can be able to implement. Because sometimes they're so lonely there and they don't even know what to do when they're seeing things fall apart. So give it a shot. Try with yourself. We say that Sheila say that when it starts with you, it reflects very well and you will attract. So it could start with you. Then the next thing is that don't shy of telling the management that this is what I'm proposing and I'm feeling like this will work very well. Yeah.
Mokai, I can see you
Over to
nodding
you.
your head. Yeah. Do you have anything to add on to that?
Not really. I think Elizabeth has covered it well, but I think again, no one is too small in an organization to make an impact. I think even the person who's a receptionist can actually create a really good environment such that people come and love to work in the place. I think start with yourself, start with the people around you. Actually, focus more on yourself, influence the people around you, and I think people will catch on with time and see okay, what are you doing that is different to be able to help you be mindful. And of course, as Elizabeth says, again, you can propose to management, hey, I think people are a bit stressed here, how can we help them to be more mindful? I think at the end of the day, so no one is too small in an organization to make a difference. Very important.
No one is too small. Thank you. Sila, what about you? Do you have anything to add on to that Farah's question? Because she had asked, how do you start to have a conversations with your colleagues about mindfulness? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I think both of my panelists hit the nail on the head with both their responses. And I think it also just goes back to, as Eric said, no one's too small to offer suggestions in the workplace. And if you're feeling like that, then I think it's time for you to reassess where you are. So own it, no one can ever, what's the word, put you down for making a suggestion in the workplace, especially if it's going to push the needle forward. And something that Eric said earlier, much earlier on, is that the reality is that people are going to move to organizations where there's more flexibility. Those organizations are going to attract the top talent. Where a junior person in the team can engage with the CEO of an organization. People are going to be drawn to those organizations. And it's pretty much a call to action to organizations to be open, you know, and similar to what your manager does by allowing you to go back to the gym and offering a sense of flexibility there. People are going to be drawn to those organizations and also advocate for them, which is the win for the organization.
Wow, wow, wow. I hope Farahab, you feel like your questions have been answered, and I can see you still had some more comments. Yeah, I think this was a continuation to the question that you had asked. Like, are there activities we can do perhaps during a team meeting to start conversations around mindfulness? Elizabeth, what do you think around a team meeting? Can she bring up that conversation?
Well, within a team conversation, because when we talk about mindfulness, we're simply saying that we want people to pay attention. We want people to be there. And we Mokaya said, providing an environment that is not toxic. Because in a toxic environment, nobody is going to talk. Everybody is going to be quiet. So, are we providing an organization an environment where people feel they can thrive? Are we providing an environment where people feel like they can speak and their voices can be heard? So, when you're in a team and you're feeling comfortable to talk or to speak up, uh, I mean, that works very well because the environment already has been set to allow you to speak up and be able to know that nobody's going to judge you. Remember, we beat ourselves so much about the present and the past. You go into a meeting, you're still thinking about things that you did 2 days ago, and you're feeling like, oh, maybe they didn't hear me well. Maybe you're beating yourself up constantly, ruminating. And that is one of the killers of growth within ourselves. That's one of the killers within speak ups, because people don't want to speak up. They're busy beating themselves up about past events, which most probably half the team has already forgotten. You're the only person who remembers what happened. So I think in such sessions, let's have those open conversations. Let's not be judging. Let's not be toxic, because a toxic environment is because of the toxic people there. An environment just doesn't become toxic within a workplace. It's the people that are toxic and creating that toxic environment. So if you want the team to speak up, brainstorm. Have people speak up, because in a brainstorming session, there's no right or wrong answer. We're just sharing our thoughts. So encourage brainstorming, because in brainstorming, there's a lot of creativity. And as people keep on thinking, they dig deeper and they give more ideas. So I think in a team, one of the things that you can do to bring those active conversations is to allow the brainstorming, so that people can speak up very freely, knowing that they're not judged, knowing that nothing is going to be held against them as they speak within the space. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I can see Faraba is agreeing. She's saying absolutely. And I can see there's one comment she said that, to be honest, taking care of your finances will give you peace of mind. I think she was just echoing some of the comments Mokaya was making about our finances. So looking at the time, I can see time has really gone, and I'm really enjoying the conversation that we are having. So let me read some of the comments that are coming through. Communicate your expectations clearly. Clearly, that is Farah. She's saying that is one of her takeaway, is communicate your expectations clearly. And then she's also saying mindfulness is through practice, elbow coach. Wow. So as we wind up our conversation this afternoon, I'd like to know from you, what is your parting shot from this conversation? Maybe I can start with you, Sile. What is one of your parting shots as we wind up the conversation that we have been having around mindfulness this afternoon?
Thank you. I think Farab has done a great job in embodying mindfulness throughout the session with being engaging and being present and asking very important questions. So thank you so much. And that's part of mindfulness, I guess, active listening, you know. So my parting shot is that just be kind to yourself. We're only human and we're only trying, you know. Allow yourself to make mistakes, and then resolve them. In Atomic Habits, a book by James Clear, he says that your habits need to be easy and enjoyable. As soon as that doesn't happen, then you're not going to continue with the habit, the practice, right? And that's the same with mindfulness. So if you, like I mentioned earlier, if you feel that you can't meditate for 20 minutes, don't do it. Start with 1 minute. Start by maybe doing the practice of going to sit in the quiet space and just sit there for 30 seconds and then move on with your day. So when you make it easily attainable and enjoyable, um, and the more you practice, the more you can expand, you can only get better. So that's really my parting words. Start small and then expand. But at the very same time, do it with kindness for yourself, and then the rest will just follow. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for the parting shot. Mukaya, let me come to you last. Elizabeth, what is your parting shot this afternoon?
Well, in a world full of distractions, and we're saying that there's too much going on, how do we pay attention? And we are pulled one side with distraction, one side with traction. What I can say is learn how to stop. Just take a moment and stop. Because we are constantly chasing and chasing. We're chasing love, we're chasing money, we're chasing so many things. So we just need to learn to stop. Take a breath, yeah, observe what's going on around you, and then now you can proceed. That's my parting shot.
Wow. Learn to stop. Take a pause. Learn to stop and reflect on your surroundings. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Mokaya, to you, what is your parting shot?
Elizabeth always steals from me. So I think, as she said, like, I think at the end of the day, it's also like learn to be yourself, just and make the most of the present opportunity. Learn as much as you can from the. Sometimes what you need to learn may actually be away from what you've studied for. You may be an accountant, but I think venture out and see what marketers do. So I think there's a way in which our campuses bring us up like we're just accountants, you're just an engineer. But I think the world is evolving. You need accountants who are also aware of social media, so who can post something and generate interest. So I think something like that. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be a TikTok influencer, but at the same time, a doctor. So at the same time, like just sharing tips on how people can also maintain their health. So just think beyond the box, and in terms of growing yourself, have conversations with yourself, check on yourself financially, do regular check-ins with yourself, so that you know, identify and see where you're going wrong, where you're going right, and don't be too hard on yourself. Enjoy life also.
Oh, yes.
Don't be too hard on yourself. Enjoy life and check on yourself. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for creating the time to join on this conversation this afternoon. And we truly appreciate you creating the time to have to spend your lunch here with us. And much was said. If you feel like this conversation will be valuable to a friend, please share, comment. The link is there available on YouTube. Kindly share it with your colleagues, with your family members, with your friends. And we always enjoy to hear from you. And please leave a comment or share your thoughts. So Thank you, my panelists. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Allow me to wrap up our conversation. Much was said, much was shared, and thank you, Silhe. Thank you, Elizabeth and Eric, for your participation in today's Lunch and Learn. You have been truly awesome. Some of my key takeaways will be paying attention to yourself, check in yourself, learn how to stop and pause and enjoy life. And above all, be mindful to be a sister's keeper, be a friend's keeper, and let's enjoy life together. So thank you. You have heard this. Thank you, and have a thank you. It is essential that you invest in yourself, not just as far as your technical skills are concerned, but those soft skills too. These are some of the skills that help us rise up and be productive in our workspaces. Those soft skills actually drive bottom line results. So thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.